Alrighty, we are recording. Right, thank you. Um, I am Charlee Chaney here in Upson County, a 4-H'er here at 4-H, and I am doing poultry for my DPA speech, and I have to build a lot of portfolio work for that. And so I think in 2018 I was able to teach the Upson County 4-H'ers poultry judging, and that was really cool. And they were going to ask me to do it again. No, I did it in 2019. I'm sorry. And they were going to ask me to do it this year, but COVID hit and all that got canceled. But so I'm pretty interested in poultry, and so we thought it'd be a good idea to talk to someone such as yourself to have a conversation with or interview. So I would like to ask, what do you do in poultry?
Okay, I am an extension poultry scientist at the UGA at the University of Georgia. Currently, I am, or I've always been, on the Tifton campus. I'm not in Athens. So my role in poultry in the department, I do not teach UGA students poultry science, but I have taught some ABAC students for several years poultry science. My main role is to offer extension help to the poultry community, not just the commercial industry. I also help with the small flock, and I also conduct research in poultry production. So my main area of research is environmental issues as they pertain to poultry production. So I deal with dead bird disposal. We look at different ways to get rid of daily mortality or catastrophic mortality that would occur from, say, a tornado or a hurricane or a fire, right? So we look at different ways to get rid of that effectively and efficiently. I deal with bias of the poultry industry. I'm sure you've heard about biosecurity, helping to protect the industry. So I train small flock producers in different aspects of biosecurity. As I said, I work with the poultry producers mainly in the southern region of the state, and so we do have like egg producers here. So I work with egg producers also. One of the main things that I've done with egg producers is helping broiler breeder companies, teaching some of them how to do things like specific gravity, which helps you to assess the eggshell quality. And I also do other eggshell quality tests with them. I do a little incubation work sometimes to examine the impact of extended storage, because a lot of these companies, when you collect the eggs to be hatched, they don't get to where they're going until sometimes up to 21 days, up to 3 weeks. And of course, the hatch rate is reduced. So we look at different ways to improve that. So those are just some of the things that I have done.
Wow, it sounds like a really cool job. And how long have you been doing this?
I've been with the University of Georgia since 2007.
And you like doing this job?
Yes, I do. One other thing that I have done, which I was one of the first persons to do this, I have evaluated the greenhouse gas emissions from poultry production houses. I'm sure you've heard about global warming and greenhouse gas. So we still work on that, trying to find ways to reduce greenhouse gases from commercial houses. So, and of course, I work a lot with the youth, right? So I work a lot with 4-Hers and with FFA students every year. And if you've ever done 4-H poultry judging, I'm usually the one that does the candling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Um, I really love poultry judging. I don't know what it is, but I'm kind of the chicken girl here at 4-H. They asked me to do poultry judging, and I actually have a YouTube channel up on the Upson County 4-H's YouTube, and I started a Charlie's Chicken Coop little segment. And I don't know what it is, but I really like dealing with the chickens. I don't know, but uh, that was some really cool information that you shared. Thank you. But, I'm sorry, I'm a little nervous.
Don't be.
um, so you said you deal with a lot of the kids and stuff. So is that like you said the candling? Do you do like stuff with like the high schools or middle schools in your area? Like do you go there and like talk to them?
No, I have not done that, but I have worked with the 4-H and the FFA teachers whenever they are preparing their kids for either the 4-H competition or the FFA competition. I've worked with a number of different leaders in that way. So that's how I've worked with the kids.
That's pretty cool. And the I didn't know FFA. What kind of competitions do they do with poultry?
They do poultry judging also.
Oh, it's the same way we do ours.
Yes, the same way. The classes are the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We the last I did the virtual poultry judging this past year because of coronavirus. For the district one, I think I placed seventh out of however many, like 50. I don't know. But that was my improvement from last year because last year I placed eighth. And I did I got the opportunity to participate in the state poultry judging one. I
Okay.
don't know if I qualified or not, but they were just opening it up to seniors because they didn't have so much participation. I don't know how I did on that. I wasn't mentioned in the top 10, so, but
Okay.
I enjoy competing. It's very nice.
Mhm. And I also, UGA has this program that we call Young Scholar.
Hmm.
And each year, high school students such as yourself, I think it's from grade 9 or it's 10th grade to 12, can come on all our campuses. They do it in Athens, in Griffin, and here in Tifton. And these high school students get a chance to work with scientists on the campus and for a period of 6 weeks. So
Nice.
we do a little project. So I always have one or two students every year working with me in poultry. And a lot of my students have gone on to go to the UGA Poultry Science Department. So that's
Nice.
another thing. That's another way I'm involved with youth.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Um, as a career wise, um, me, I'm not, I'm between what I want to do as I get older, and I know I got to decide soon because I'm a junior in high school. Um, I do want to play softball in college. That's always been a dream of mine. But after that, I've been actually Miss Haley does, the agricultural side or the extension on 4-H's side, or just a job like what you have and working with poultry is um, kind of an interest of mine. So, what advice would you give to someone maybe going into that type of career field?
Wow. The vocation of poultry is so wide,
Yeah, there.
right? There are so many different areas in which you could go. Of course, I'd encourage you to choose a path in poultry. I wouldn't be a poultry scientist if I didn't tell you that. Um, there, there are so many different areas of poultry that you can be involved with. You can get right down to the actual practical part, working with actual birds by working as a service tech at one of the many poultry companies that we have here in the state or across the country, right? Um, as you know, poultry is the number one income earner when it comes to agriculture in this state, right? We are number one in the state, number one in the country. And if Georgia was a country by itself, we would be way up there also, right? When it comes to I think the last time I looked, we were like 6th in the world.
Oh, wow.
Georgia by itself, not the USA. USA is number 1. So the area of poultry science, you can be a scientist, right? And when you become a scientist, you can choose different areas.
Yeah.
When I was studying, I was mainly a physiologist or an immunologist, kind of split between the two. You could do breeder management, you can be a nutritionist, you can be a poultry engineer, right? Because that is an area that is growing very fast right now, where engineers develop different methodologies to operate within a poultry house. For example, I am doing a project right now where we are using robots inside the houses to pick up eggs that are on the floor, right? You have different companies also currently using robots to pick up dead birds out of the houses. There are so many different things. So we have poultry engineers, we have people who just work on poultry genetics, nutrition, physiology, immunology, breeder, commercial layers, right? That just look at egg production, and people who focus on the hatchery, right? Making sure that everything is going right in the hatchery, develop different hatches, everything. So it's a very wide field. So I always encourage people to give it a try and see where you can go. And of course, you can be a poultry vet. Those people are always in high demand.
Well, I like sharing the knowledge I have with people. It's people ask me stuff and I tell them, they're like, "Wow, that's so cool!" Like
Mhm.
it's kind of, at first they're like, "Chickens? You know a lot about chickens?" I'm like, "Well, yeah." And I really like sharing my knowledge with them, and I think that's pretty cool. I
So
really
there
like
you
working
go.
with the
You can
birds.
be an extension person, because that's what extension people do.
Yeah.
Right? We transfer the knowledge that some of the other scientists in the area, we transfer it to others.
Mm. And that's really cool. And um, the fact that Georgia is, like, number one producer of this type of stuff, I feel like it's something that a lot of people should know about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I picked this category for my DPA, it was Miss Haley's idea because we haven't done much this year because of coronavirus. And so
Mm-hmm.
we actually had some chicks that we've incubated here at the office. We got 3 chicks. If you want to go check out my YouTube video, I do like a little introduction video on them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we've incubated them here, and that was her idea, was if you do poultry this year, because you've done it before, the poultry judging, you were like a helping coach it. This will give you some portfolio work, and I can set up meetings and stuff. So I'm pretty sure, I mean, in DPA, if you do the best that you can and you master in your category, you can't do it again because you're already the best at it.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, I mean, always hoping that I master, right? But chances are that if I don't master this year, because I haven't had that much work, I'll do it again next year and be able to really build a lot of portfolio work next year by having meetings with people such as yourselves.
Okay.
That's the idea here. When you were younger, did you see yourself becoming what you are right now?
No, no. I think I wanted to be a vet.
I bet, yeah.
My grandfather had a farm, and he had animals on it. And, I wanted to be a vet. And a lot of, I think I've come across so many people who wanted to be vets, but end up doing something in animal science.
Yeah.
My first degree is in general agriculture, where we studied both animals and plants, but I've always loved dealing with animals. My master's is in animal science. And then when I started my PhD, or decided to start my PhD program, even though my master's was in animal science, the university didn't offer, say, a poultry science degree, right? First degree. So um, my research was in poultry. So, and it was an easy transition into a PhD that's focused on poultry.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I've always loved it. I studied my most of my research in my PhD work was on layer hens. So I did a lot of physiology and immunology in that area. So I really enjoy doing research in poultry science. There's so many things you can do.
Hmm.
It's vast.
When I was younger, I wanted to be a vet as well, but I've kind of grown out of that. I've said I've wanted to be many things, as most teenagers do, you know. Um, so did you start your interest in poultry before you started college, and that's when you decided you'd like to do your research in poultry, or was it while you were in college you kind of had like a?
Yeah, it was while I was in college.
Hmm.
While, while I was in college and, you know, doing a general agriculture first degree, you look at different animals. And I mean, we did the cattle thing too, where we palpated a pregnant cow and all of that. But chickens, the thing with poultry, I think that caught me first because frankly I was a bit weary of birds, you know, with their long nail talons and their beaks and all of that. I was a bit weary of birds, but I got over that real quick. And as I was saying, the thing with studying poultry is that you can get results so quickly. You can see the impact of your study very quickly
Yeah.
because it takes what? 21 days for an egg to hatch, right?
Yeah.
And how fast does it take for a broiler to get to market level? 6 weeks, right? So if you want to look at the impact of, say, nutrition on on a flock of birds,
Yeah.
you get the results within 2 months.
Wow.
So that turnover, you can keep going, keep changing different things in the research to improve it, and within a year you can have something that's viable. So that's why I just latched on to poultry so quickly.
Yeah, and I bet that's like a lot of motivation as you see your results. You can see like, oh, I'm so close, I'm getting there. It's a lot of
Mhm.
motivation.
Right, right, right. And if you're starting a research and something goes bad and you lose a flock, it's not that hard to start again. No, if you have a herd of cattle and a disease wipes out 50% of your test animals, what happens? You have to just scrap that, right? And
Yeah.
start another 2 years to get anywhere. So it's easy.
Yeah, the chicks we had incubated here, they were hatched like between mid-November, like November 17th, and they're already getting pretty big. It's
Oh
crazy
yeah.
to see how fast they grow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
Hmm. Most of the chickens we did with poultry judging, they were white leg horn hens was the
Mhm.
ones that we worked with. Yeah, the production, egg layer hens.
Right. Mhm.
So I would do a lot of candling with their eggs and stuff. Uh, the 4-H here actually let me use their candler, and I brought it to I'm homeschooled,
Mhm.
and I have my mom teaches a small school with like 12 students at our church. Um, and I actually got the candler to go show them how to candle eggs, and she let me take it to my friend's house. I used to have chickens when I was little. We don't have chickens anymore. We moved to the city and we couldn't have them.
Mhm.
But I was able to go to my friend's house. They have chickens and candle some of their eggs for them. I enjoy really, like I said, like the knowledge I can share with them, and I enjoy it very much. It's pretty cool.
Good.
And um, I'm interested in poultry, uh, but I wouldn't mind going for something else either. Like there are other lots of, like you said, like the basic agriculture degree and stuff like that that you could go for. I just like working in this type of thing, you know.
Yeah. You like to be outside?
Yes.
Mhm.
Um, So, what else do I have here? So, poultry, for my DPA thing, portfolio work, anything from January 1st to December 31st. So, time's kind of running down for me to get more portfolio work. Is there any ideas that you might have for any type of work, or like after the first of the year, I can start preparing my presentation? Is there any ideas that you might have that would make a good presentation on poultry science, or anything I might do to add to like the work I've done?
Well, I guess you could highlight the different areas of poultry, right? Of commercial poultry production.
Okay.
You could highlight that. Um, I think that there are not a lot of people who realize that you have different sides to the industry, right? So you have the commercial layers, which is totally different, right, from the broiler industry. So you could, if you're gonna talk, set up your portfolio, you could begin probably by, talking about the two different sides. You start with the commercial um, layers on one side. Next side, you have the broiler industry, and then each side is broken down again, to pullet production. So you could probably do something like that that shows the different areas
Yeah,
in
I
poultry,
hadn't thought of
and
that.
then
That's a
and
good
then you
idea.
target, probably end up by targeting a specific area within the two arms.
It's a really good idea. I hadn't thought about that. And part of me was thinking like going like specific local like chicken like, but the that's a really good idea. Is more focus more on the industry itself, and I think
Mhm.
that's a really good idea. Thank you.
Right. That's one way to educate a lot of people who are unaware of what is done to get an egg in the supermarket, or to get a chicken leg in the
I
supermarket.
mean, yeah. I mean, when you say poultry, people just they think of chickens like that's like they don't
Yes.
see all the
You
different sides of it.
Mhm.
And talking about the industry sounds more mature and professional. That's a really good idea. So like when you go, when you mentioned you do a lot with the youth and stuff. If you make presentations for them, do you ever do anything like that? Like, I know you said you didn't go to schools and stuff, but
Usually at the beginning of say any poultry judging contest, there is somebody. I don't do that because it's a bunch of us that from the department that does the whole poultry judging section. But usually we begin with that, with somebody talking about the industry,
yeah.
or of course, about the department and what the department at UGA offers. But I don't usually speak to students about that, unless I'm like, sometimes we have like homeschool groups that tours our Tifton campus. And so at that time, or even other high school groups that come here. So when they do that, I do talk about the different parts of the
Yeah.
industry then. But generally at the competitions, no, we have people who do that at the competition, because we are busy setting up for the different sections of the competition during that time. But
Yeah.
that is something that I do. Yeah, I do that, but here on campus.
Oh yeah. Um, in this poultry category I'm going into, I'm probably going to be competing against a lot of kids. Miss Haley, and they had like the portfolios, which is just a list of all the things they've done within this category throughout the year. They printed off some in past years of kids who have mastered in their category, and I'm reading theirs, and a lot of it is like the kids who've grown up on the broiler farms their whole lives. and they work in the houses every day. And I haven't really done that. So like, is there any maybe like not this year, of course, we kind of ran out of time for that, but um, people that like production houses, do they offer some sort of learning experience or internships within the houses, or certain companies maybe that like to have young children shadow them and stuff?
The companies typically no, um, because of biosecurity,
Oh yeah.
right? So typically they don't do that. Now, if you have a relative that owns a farm, maybe they'll allow you to go in following all of the biosecurity standards that the company, the company has in place, right? Because you don't just go to a commercial farm without the company knowing,
Yeah.
right? Because the birds belong to the company, not to the farmer. The only thing that belongs to the farmer are the houses and the equipment, right?
And
But
what?
everything, the birds belong to the company, so they stipulate who can visit and who can't, right? So, I mean, if you know somebody who has a lot of birds, small flock, I'm sure, because there are people in the state that has like up to 3,000 birds, and they're not growing for any particular company. They're just doing that on their own. So we do have some we refer to those as small flock producers, right? So they would probably allow you to visit their farm. But other than that, typically, no, they don't. For biosecurity reasons, because diseases can spread through a house very quickly.
And yeah, we were talking about the how it's quick to get your results back. There's also
Mhm.
a bit of downside, is that the diseases can go through them really
Right.
quickly.
And that is because of how the birds are grown, right? We have up to 30,000 birds in a 500 square foot house together, right? So think about nowadays with COVID. Think of COVID
Yeah.
in that situation. That's how quickly it will spread from bird to bird. A disease can spread from bird to bird. So that's why it's very important that biosecurity standards are followed in commercial houses, and not only in commercial houses. The small flock producers also have to follow biosecurity procedures, because their birds can die too from
Yeah.
diseases, right? And and a lot of time diseases spread from these small backyard flock. It gets to the commercial flock,
Yeah.
and of course it wipes out the commercial house faster, because your backyard flocks are outside running around, and they have more fresh air and all of that.
Hmm.
So that's why it's biosecurity is very important.
Well, Miss Haley, we had talked to her about, she used to work in I think it was hog houses, basically the same thing but with hogs, and they'd have to shower like before they get out into every house.
Mm-hmm. Shower
And
in, shower out. In a lot of, especially the what we call the grandparent flock facilities, where those birds are the one that produce the eggs that determine the breeds, the different breeds that each company use. They have very, very strict biosecurity guidelines that they have to adhere by. So.
well, I know when she had told us about it, I was like, wow, that's crazy. I mean, but it makes sense to keep, the animals safe. But when I was reading this the other portfolio I got of someone who had mastered in my category before, her portfolio was basically based off her biosecurity and training and certification and her practices. And I started doing a lot of research on it because it never really occurred to me of how much you'd have to, you know, the risk of different diseases, you'd have how much caution you would have to take. It never really occurred to me, and I was like, well, dang, that was kind of ignorant on my part to think that stuff didn't happen, especially with poultry, because of how quickly stuff happens with them. So
Yes, very quickly. In some facilities, I remember going to a conference and somebody was giving a talk about the biosecurity measures in, it was a different country too, that they had to go through when they visited a facility. I don't remember if it was Switzerland or Belgium or somewhere in Europe. And if you couldn't swim, that means you couldn't enter, because they had to, when they got to the facility, they had to change into a specific suit in, and then they entered a pool and they had to dive down and come up on the other side of a wall to get to the other side where the birds are. So if you can't swim or you don't know how to hold your breath for a few seconds to dive under and go back up, that means you couldn't enter. And when you got over to the other side, then you showered again, you put on some different clothing, then you visited the birds. When you're leaving, you had to do the same thing again. So I've visited a grandparent farm before, and shower in and you shower out.
wow.
In, you have to shower, change and put on their stuff, and when you're coming out, same thing.
Yeah, the pool thing, that's pretty crazy. I never heard of that before.
Right. I don't know if they have any of those facilities here in this country where they use pools, but showering, yeah, from head to your toe.
Yeah, shower in, shower out. That's what Miss Haley was saying, that she would visit like 5 different houses and she done showered 10 times that day. And so that's crazy, but I mean it's all for the safety of the animals. So
Right. For the safety of the animals. They have to be strict.
yeah.
Have to be strict. That's why even with what's happening in the world now with COVID-19, the poultry industry was always practicing good and strict
Hmm.
biosecurity standards. So it's been not as damaging on the farms as
Yeah.
it has been other places.
Well, the and like you were saying that the company owns the birds, not the farmer.
Mhm.
So the biosecurity measurements are put in place from the company to
From the
keep the birds safe.
Mhm.
I mean, because it is their responsibility, yeah, to keep all those birds safe. The farmer, like, as an example, like the farmer owns the houses and the company puts the birds in. And they have all this stuff.
Mhm.
Um, is the farmer like, does he work for the company or is he just like lending his
They
house?
have a contract. They have a contract with the company,
Oh, that
right?
makes
So they get paid based on the weight, bird weight,
oh, okay.
right? So they and a lot of them, like, they have like competitions. So if you have the best feed conversion ratio,
Mm,
you get the right standard of weight and all of that, you're on a tier with another set. Say you have 7 people in each tier, 7 farms in each tier. So the higher up you're on the tier, the more money you get. Something like that. I don't know what the contracts are now and what each company does, but basically that's what, so some motivation for you to make sure that your birds are being looked after properly in the houses and all of that. Yeah. And the company provides the feed and the medication, and if birds are sick, the vet company provides all of that.
Does the company employ the people, like, or is it with the contract? Is it up to the farmer to find workers to help?
Right. The farmer find his workers.
Oh, okay. That's that's pretty cool. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that before. I just kind of thought that, like you said, the industry is something that people don't really think of much. Is like the different sides of it. I hadn't really thought about that before, how the company, builds
Right.
its houses and stuff. That's pretty cool. And talking about the biosecurity, I've been reading a lot about it recently. In these articles. One of the ones I read was biosecurity when cleaning out the houses, and they
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure like all the chickens are completely out. And
Yeah.
how do they do that safely?
Well, the cleaning of the houses is at the end of the flock.
Oh,
So, say they are growing a broiler flock, and you're catching the birds at 6, 7 weeks, right? So the birds are all out of the houses, and then they do what we call decake or take out cake. Usually, it was total clean out, right? Of all the bedding, all the litter is cleaned out to the floor, and then for the next flock, you have a fresh litter, but that is not being done so much now. I don't even know of any company who actually does that still because of the scarcity of, say, pine shaving material for bedding, right? So what they do now, they take out the caked area, and the caked area is where water would combine with the litter and it cakes up. So they use a machine to take that out, and then they add a layer of fresh bedding on top of it for the new flock to come in. So they don't do total clean out anymore. It's more partial. Maybe they do total clean out after some companies after 1 year, some even longer than that. So each company has their own standard. But in preparation for the new flock that's coming in, sometimes they do what we call a windrow. So they make 2 long furrows of the litter inside of the house, put a machine in there and turn it, and then they put so 2 rows of the litter in there and close up the house for a while so that the ammonia burns off inside the houses, and then they spread that litter again, put the top dressing on, they clean down clean up the house some, and put a litter treatment on it, and they're ready for the next flock. So after one flock leaves the house, depending on the company, it might take 12 days. Some company less, some a little more for the next flock to come in.
yeah,
So basically, a typical farmer will have maybe 5 flocks per year.
yeah. Well, the article I read was a total clean out, and they sprayed pest anticide and
Right,
stuff to
right.
keep everything out, and they let it dry for like 5 days or something, 3 days, and then they completely cleaned it out. It's like total clean out, and from top to bottom they worked down
Mm-hmm.
washing it and let it dry again for like another 5 days. Like it was a while.
Yeah. So it takes a little while before they put the next flock in.
Yeah.
And of course, it depends on the demand. It depends on the orders that the company has from the retailers. So it's a lot of business goes into the business of
Yeah, sounds like it. And how do they safely transport the
the
boards,
birds.
birds?
They are transported in crates,
Hmm.
right? You can sometimes see them going down or up the highway with these crates with the birds in it. And that's another thing. When you talk about poultry production or the poultry industry or the vocation of poultry, that's another area that you can focus on too. Poultry welfare. So you're concerned about the welfare of the birds. That's one area that researchers have been working on. How can we better transport these birds to the processing plants without causing them any harm? So um, some of these facilities that transport the birds now, they have fans in them. They limit the amount of birds that you can put in one of these crates, and so they do different things, right? And you stack crate upon crate, take it to the processing plant. At the processing plant, they are in, what would I call that now? Garages or shelters, big shelters with huge fans, which is important during the summer, right? So that the birds remain cool while they wait being transported inside of the processing facility. Have you ever been in one of the processing plants?
No, I don't think so.
Well, some of the companies actually allow like a tour during the time that they're processing. I've taken kids a lot of times over the years on tours at processing plants.
Mhm. Um, so while the birds are being transported, they're also practicing biosecurity to make sure the birds stay safe.
Well, it's not as stringent as other times because we're taking them to the processing plant, right? So right at that point, you just need them to get there alive.
Yeah, yeah,
It's more of a welfare thing than biosecurity when it comes to transporting them down the highway.
yeah. And when the new birds come in, um, probably would that be a little stricter than normal?
When the new chicks comes, well, of course, everything will be cleaned and ready, prepared for the new chicks. And, the standard biosecurity practices are followed as they come in. So the house would be fumigated or sprayed down, disinfected for the new flock of birds to come in.
Yeah, there are so many jobs within the poultry industry.
Hmm.
Crazy. I hadn't really thought about it before, but it's you mentioned how Georgia's like the number one. Um, I know I learned about that before we during poultry judging and stuff, and I had learned about it. It's just crazy to think that there are that many chickens.
Oh, yeah, there are.
Mm,
Just think about one poultry farm having 16 houses on it,
yeah,
right? And there are farms like that here in South Georgia, 16 houses on one farm, and each of these houses having 30,000 birds.
yes,
Do the math, right? That's a lot of birds.
a lot of birds.
Mhm.
They here in Upson County, I think we have there's called South Farms, and I'm pretty sure they have a contract with people because they have those the big long houses on their farms. I think there's only three or two of them, two maybe I think just two, but we pass by a lot. It's near our church, and it's a huge field out there, and they got the barn, and then they have the huge houses. So it's pretty crazy. Uh, do you know who the number one company in Georgia is with production hens and stuff?
Number one in Georgia. No, I'm not sure. We have some of the big companies. As a matter of fact, this week the top poultry company in the world was named, and that was JBS. So JBS was that company that bought out Pilgrims.
Okay.
Oh, I think they still the chicken farms are still called Pilgrims. So, but does Pilgrim have more houses? I'm not sure, to be honest. How many farms each of these companies? But we have the major ones, plus we have some farms that are Georgia farms, right? So the major ones would be Sandersons, the Tysons,
Yeah.
Pilgrims, right? Those Purdue. Those are the major ones, and we have um, Claxton or Fry's. We have Columbia. We have Harrison. So we have quite a number of different companies. I think we have about 13 broiler companies in the state. Mhm.
It's a but the farmer who lends out the houses probably makes a bit of money, and the company itself from the hens.
Well, you'd have to go and interview a farmer. I,
Yeah.
I'm sure their opinion would not be. It's not an easy. It's not an easy thing to take up. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, these farmers are making a lot of money," but when you think that years ago, I don't know what the cost is now, but for one of those houses was like $250,000,
Yeah.
right? And that's just shell, right? It's not as if, you're doing flooring and all of that, but it's $250,000 for one house, right? And you can't make money off one house. So, maybe four is the average size, four houses, and you have to pay that back. So that's how much money? That's $1 million,
It's a lot of money.
right? So you have to pay that back. And we had a poultry economist who he left some time ago. We really haven't had anyone come in and do the breakdown, but he used to break it down and tell you by when the farmer will start actually seeing a profit
Yeah.
rather than just paying it. So a lot of people think that poultry farmers, oh, they're turning over that money, but not necessarily.
No.
They will tell you that it's not fist over fist, hand over fist of money. No, it takes time you have to establish yourself and pay off that mortgage for those houses before you start seeing it. And I think I don't want to tell you um, how how long that mortgage is because I'm not sure. But it's not the typical mortgage that you would get a house that you live in
Yeah.
for. Mm. But it's hard work.
As I say, it sounds like a lot of hard work, and like you said, establishing yourself and having a reputation to start seeing that profit.
Mhm. It's hard work. And you have to do everything by the company's standards. So if they say feed the birds by then, you better make sure the birds are fed by then because the trouble passes on. If you don't do it in time, the service person gets the knock for that and it goes down the line. If he gets the knock, you're going to get the knock after.
Yeah.
So, so it's hard work. You have to be dedicated to it. You have to love working in these conditions because it's not always pleasant conditions inside these houses. You have to work the flock, make sure the water is running, the feed lines are running, the birds are living, the livability within the house is high, right? So it's hard work for the producers.
Yeah. That side of the job sounds a little more hardworking, like you said, and going into more of a like the aspect you were talking about, more of a poultry science
Hmm.
sounds more like something I'd be more interested in than
Hmm.
working on a farm, which I wouldn't mind. I like working with the birds as well. The birds are great, the chicks we have here. I love working with them. So, but
And some people would say working with the birds are okay, but working with people, not so much.
yeah, yeah. Have a plaque put on your desk that says that. Well, um,
Yeah.
so this is I should say thank you for having this with me. This is really nice. Is there any other things that you want to say or questions?
Well, no. If there's anything else you would like to know, feel free to contact me.
Yeah, this is
Okay?
really nice. Thank you.
Contact me. If you're working on your stuff and you need some, suggestions, feel free to contact me. If I can't help you, I'll point you in the right direction.
I might hold you to that because I'm gonna need all the knowledge I can have on this industry stuff for my presentation because I'm I really like that idea that you gave me about the different sides of the industry. It's it just sounds so professional in my head, you know, and I think I'm gonna go with that. So thank you so much for that idea. That
No, you're welcome.
um, so this meeting was very informational and educational for me. Thank you so much for this. Um, and I will probably contact you again about that industry thing we talked about. So um, I don't, I don't know, I don't know how to work Zoom,
Okay. We
but
just have to log out.
I guess I don't know. But thank you so much. It was very nice meeting you, Dr. Dunkley. Um,
Thank you too, Charlie,
thank
and good luck.